Great. Welcome to Google Cloud, Google Developer Group Cloud Jam series for the San Diego GDG. As Svetlin, our GDG leader, just covered, we have a special session today. It is the first of a series of 4 of Cloud Study Jams. And we can talk about what is a study jam. It's a community event. It's really about getting together and learning, helping each other grow. That's very much the intent of this session, is to get some access and provide some space for each of you to develop some new skills or refresh some skills if you've done some Google Cloud work in the past. Why should you do it? One, of course, you're here to meet each other, help each other grow and build your skills and talents. And that includes if you're a GCP veteran. I feel like there's no better way to learn something than to attempt to teach something, right? So if you've already done any of these labs or have some hands-on experience, please help your fellow learners here. This is very much for you and about you. The other reason to go about this, doing it in study jams, as you will see, Quick Labs is our learning platform at Google Cloud. We do sell subscriptions, monthly subscriptions for that. That does have a value to it. It's a monetary value. It's actually $55 a month. If you were to purchase a 30-day access pass, as you'll see as we go through here. You could also, purchase individual labs or credits as you go. In the end, I think depending on how many you do, it might end up being more than $55 if you did it that way. Today, it's going to cost you $0. We are working on having a special code for you to use when you log in, so that if you complete the first lab in the quest that we're going to be doing today, that Jesse's going to lead you through, that should unlock 30 days of access to Quick Labs for you. So I'll show you what that looks like and how you would go about it. The other cool thing is you can get skills badges for doing this. So skills badges are just what it sounds like, right? A nice fun icon and a link that you can post if you want to document it up. Some people on their social media post, I completed this lab, I completed this quest, and they show off their badges. So we have a collection of Googlers on here today to help you to go through this Quick Lab. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is this quest. It's called Create and Manage Cloud Resources. And this is part of learning track on infrastructure modernization. And it's comprised of a quest, is comprised of multiple labs. So we're not going to stay on here and complete all of these labs together with you, but the intention is to show you your way around the platform so that you could then continue on utilizing that free access code to be able to complete the rest of the labs, including the final lab in this quest, which is a challenge lab. As you can imagine, it's probably pulling together all of the things that you've done in the other sections of the quest. So we will do probably the first 2, possibly 3 Quick Labs together as part of this session, and then you'll be on your own. So depending how quickly you move through, you may be able to, during the 90 minutes that we're on here, get further along. Welcome to ask questions about future labs or to take a look around. I'll send these through in the chat, or actually if one of the moderators wouldn't mind sending the links through so that people can click on them in chat. Step 1, we'll do a preview here of what you need to do, but step 1 is going to be go to google.quicklabs.com. And if you're already signed in with a Google, like a Gmail account, or if you have a Quick Labs account, just sign out for now. It will prompt you to sign back in, but we want to be intentional on making sure that you are using the correct account. And step 2 is going to be actually visiting this site. So I made a bit.ly link, or you can go to it here. So either of those, cloud-study-jams-2021, that's what we're doing. That will take you to basically a menu of hands-on labs. The one that we've selected today is actually the very first one here, Create and Manage Cloud Resources, and you're going to click on the Enroll button for that. So that's going to be step 2, is select Create and Manage Cloud Resources and click the Enroll button underneath of it. Step 3 is going to be to enter the StudyJam access code. The StudyJam access code, it should prompt you for that immediately when you click the Enroll. So it's going to, sorry, I need to share a different way here. This way it's not going to show you what I want. One second. I was using a cool new feature that is cool, but doesn't work for what I'm trying to do here. Very good. All right, back on track. So again, you're going to go here, click on Enroll. When you click Enroll, it is going to pop up and ask you for this access code. That access code is what's going to unlock those 30 days of labs for you. So once you've put that code in, then you're going to click Enroll in this on-demand quest, and that'll sign you up for the quest, which is the one that we're working on together today. Once you've done that, then you will be signed in to your account. What you're looking to get is once your Quick Labs account has used that code, and then you sign in with Google or sign in using the email, then you should get credits on your account so that you can then complete the rest of the labs. So you'll be enrolled, you'll do one lab which is free, and then the remaining labs are going to require at least 1 credit or multiple on some of the labs like this one. Those should be taken care of once you've used that enrollment code. So hopefully that makes sense. Then step 5 is really getting into the Quick Labs environment, which is going to be opening up the Google Cloud Console and then following along with the lab instructions. So it works best if you've got multiple monitors. You could put instructions on one and the lab in another. For the lab itself, when you open the console, it's probably easiest if you do that in an incognito window. So in Google Chrome, you can use an incognito window. I see that Raphael has a question. Go ahead, Raphael.
Hi. So, by the way, thank you guys for putting this together. The Quick Labs link that you had in the meeting, so I used that. It took me directly to the input for the code. And now it's telling me to sign in. I know that we don't want to be signing in with our own account, but is it going to work either way if I just sign in with my normal Google account? Because it is asking me to sign into some accounts.
Yes, and you are actually correct. So yes, it will ask you to sign into the Quick Labs interface using your Gmail account, or if you have an existing account, once you've put in that code. So yes, you can sign in that way, but the important step is making sure that you access it through here and click Enroll so that it prompts you for the access code. If you've done the access code part, then you can sign in, right? That's not the code, but then once you enroll, then you can sign in, right? And then you should be able to get in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Hopefully that works for everyone. So if you see this prompt here that says, it's going to need a credit or use a lab access code, that means something is not right. So if you get prompted there, don't go and spend your money right now. You shouldn't. We should be able to use this code to access the lab. If you run into a problem when you're trying to start the lab where it's asking you to pay, let us know and we'll try to troubleshoot that with you, see if there's an issue with that code. Once you get into the console, there are 2 ways to perform the labs. One is going to be using the graphical user interface, right? The console that's pointed out here. There are also usually instructions on how you could do it using a command line interface. So the Cloud Shell CLI. So just be aware, you don't have to do both. You can. It's good practice, right? You can learn how to do it 2 different ways. But typically, to complete the exercise, you can just do either the GUI or the CLI. If you make sure that when you get to the end of your lab, that you click End Lab in the interface. That's how it will actually put the green check mark in your quest. If you just close the window, the lab is actually out there still running until the timer runs out. Likewise, if you, for whatever reason, run out of time, no problem. You can just go start the lab again, right? So make sure you end the lab, and if you need to, you can go back in and start over, right? Kind of on a clean slate. So that's basically the interface that we're going to work on. I'm going to hand it to my colleague, Jesse Wright, who is going to lead us on this Quick Lab Cloud journey. And let me stop doing this. Just leave the call. Very good. And Jesse, while you get everybody set up, I'm going to dig into, I have about 10 chat messages here about my my question on the code that we're using. So let me look at that. And meanwhile, you can get everybody up and going. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Jesse.
Good evening, afternoon, everyone. I'm Jesse Wright. I'll be your study jam tour guide as we kind of go through this evening. Feel free to ask any study jam questions you might have along the way. As we kind of mentioned before, you can put those questions in the chat, and then we'll address those as they kind of come up and as they come through. There's some extra Googlers on here. Phil, in particular, is going to be helping me along the way. You see Phil there. And as we kind of go through this, so Phil can help facilitate and help with any questions as well as we kind of go through things. So I'll go ahead and kick it off and start here at the second step. So step 2, I'm going to go ahead and assume everyone's got an account with Quick Labs. If I could get if anyone doesn't have a Quick Labs account set up, can you just say so in the chat real quick before we get rolling? Otherwise, I'll assume everyone has an account set up at this point. We don't have to do that step. All right, no news is good news, right? Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen then, and we'll take it from there. Okay. So if you go to that link, as Kyle was mentioning a minute ago, it'll take you to this screen here. So I've already logged in, right? I've already gone through that step, and I'm hitting the URL to go to the study jams. I'm going to go ahead and click the Enroll, and I'll go ahead and enter in that code and select that I'm not a robot. And then that's going to take me into the quest. And so we can go ahead and enroll in this quest, and we should be going. So the first one that we're going to do is the tour of the Quick Labs in Google Cloud. This one here actually has some introductory information before we actually hit go. So don't get too far ahead and click Start Lab just yet. If you want to follow along, if you're working ahead, feel free to go ahead and hit that and get going. But the first thing here is it's going to go over some of the details in terms of what we'll learn through here. This is going to orientate you with Quick Labs. It'll also orientate you with the Google Cloud Console. Those are kind of the two main components of this particular lab. So if we go down here to the first section, the Quick Labs Fundamentals, this outlines some of the features and components. You can see some of those details here. So first and foremost is the Start Lab button. That's up here in the upper left-hand corner. Once you click that button, it's going to create a temporary Google Cloud environment, and that environment will start the clock. And each one of these labs has a time limit associated with it. That time limit, I'll say, is pretty generous based on my past experience. Usually you can get through these in, at least 2/3 of the time that's allotted. Sometimes half or even less once you kind of get rolling and you're kind of familiar with how to navigate in the environment. The second piece is that it'll indicate, the credits required. This particular lab is free, right? So there's no credits required, and if the code works and we get everything worked out there, then the rest of those will be free as well. I talked briefly about the time, and then also there's a score. So here you can actually track your activities. So as you go through these quests, it'll track the activities in them. There's also questions in the labs, and some of these labs have tracking where you need to actually complete all the steps in a particular order in order to receive credit for the lab. So pay attention to that as you're kind of going on your quests. and as you're going through your journey within the Quick Labs environment. All right. Any questions so far?
I definitely want to encourage everybody to please play along. It's great to watch and observe, and you definitely learn things and absorb it that way. But it's free if you've got the ability. Pop open a Chrome browser and follow along.
Absolutely.
And there are kittens. And someone had a dog earlier. I don't know who had the dog. But.
Yeah, that was Louise. We fed her. She's much better now.
She likes Quick Labs.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so we hit the first bank of questions here, so I'll kind of open this up to the floor. So anybody want to take a stab at this first one here? So this is the item that builds a temporary environment in Google Cloud. And you can just put your answer in the message in the chat. Anyone want to take a crack at this first one? Any takers? We got Start Lab. Let's give it a go.
Raphael's still getting his lab spun up. Okay, no problem. Let us know if you have trouble, Raphael. Umesh, you've got it.
There you go. I think we've got to start this in order to get these questions to work. Yeah. There we go. How about the second one here? When the timer reaches 0, you will lose access to your temporary Google Cloud environment. True or false? True. I got a true. All right. That's correct. Some labs have tracking which scores your completion of hands-on lab activities. True or false? That is true. And in order to receive completion credit for a lab that has tracking, you must complete the required hands-on activities. A very strong true from Norm. All right. Very good. Okay. So if you're comfortable with where you're at this point, I went ahead and started the lab so we could do the questions. But at this point, this is where you'll start to actually launch into the console, and we can start poking around and doing some activities inside of it. So one of the things you'll want to do at this stage is you can open this in an incognito window. The other option you can do, and this is something that I've done, is if you have Chrome, you can do profiles. So if you look, what I'm doing here is I've got some extra profiles. You can do a guest profile or some other profile that isn't associated with this one over here, and that will work as well. So I've already done that and launched a separate browser window over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and right-click and copy the link and paste it over here. And when you do that, it'll also pre-populate the user ID. You can also copy it from the username over here on the left-hand side. You can see that underneath the lab console information. But it's already pre-populated, so I'll go ahead and click Next. From here, you're going to want to put the password in. So go ahead and hit Copy here. And I'll paste that in. And that will launch you into the console. So let me go ahead and move this over here. And we'll open this up so we have a little bit more real estate. Okay. So the first thing I want to point out is that the project information, that's indicated right here. You can also get to it up here on the top, this blue bar next to the Google Cloud Platform. And in here, it'll actually indicate what projects you have. So this is the most recent project. This is the project that was launched when the console launched, when you actually launched the lab itself. If you want to look at all of the projects inside of this particular organization, you can see those listed here as well. So there's some other information there. So we have some more questions here we can jump to. I'll bring this back over. So first here it's asking, what field is not found in the left pane? Anybody want to take a stab at this one? System admin. That's correct. Second question here is the username in the left panel, which resembles Google xxxstudent_student quicklabs.net. Is it a cloud IAM identity, true or false? True. Everybody's quick tonight. Boy, we're jumping on these.
Big true from Norm. Good job. The mesh is quick.
Absolutely. Okay, we touched a little bit on the project. You can see the project information here. I mentioned that a little bit before. And we talked briefly about viewing all projects, right? And that's up here. Just as a little reminder. Okay. Bringing some more questions to bear. An organizing entity for anything you build with Google Cloud, what would that be? Cloud storage bucket, password, Google Cloud project, or a username? Google Cloud project.
Good job, Rafael.
Second here is a Quick Labs resources are shared read-only with all Quick Labs users, which means that you cannot delete or modify it. True or false?
True. All right, we've got some controversy here.
Oh,
Rafael says true. We got two falses. What do you guys think? It was a little confusing when I was reading it, right? It's just talking about the Quick Labs environment here, just the kind of sandbox that we have available to play. So
I got two falses and one true. So I'm going to go with the majority, and we'll see. Oh, it was true. Quick Labs Resources is the project where you run all of your lab steps. True or false? False. I got one false. I got one true. Any tiebreaker?
maybe somebody's just being contrarian, right? He's just trying to
let's go with false.
Betting black.
Yeah. Good Vegas odds here. All right. So moving into the navigation menu and services. So the little hamburger looking thing over here on the left-hand side, this opens up the navigation menu. And here you can see all of the different categories. Now in the lab it lists 7, but there's actually more there. So I think a little bit of this has to do with the timing of when this was, this Quick Labs was developed, right? So you've got compute, serverless, storage, databases, application integration, all the way down to big data, AI, all the good stuff. So all those are broken out into their different categories. In this next task, we're going to go and take a look at the IAM. So we're going to go to the navigation menu up here in the upper left-hand corner. We're going to go down to the IAM and admin. And that's going to open up this default screen here with the IAM and showing the permissions for the different principals here listed. So you can see the student, which is the user ID that was provided when we launched the lab. That's indicated down here at the bottom. You can see the different roles that are associated with each one of these principals inside of identity and access management. You can also make edits or changes to these. As an alternative view, you can click on roles and you can see these broken down by the different roles and who's associated with them. And those can be expanded here. And you can make your edits there as well. right, time for a couple questions. We answer the following here. What offers quick access to the platform services and also outlines its offerings? Cloud ops, networking, navigation menu, or compute? The nav menu, that's right. Primitive roles set project level permissions and unless otherwise specified, control access and management to all Google Cloud services, true or false? True. Provides all viewer permissions plus permissions for actions that modify state, such as changing existing resources. The editor role, viewer role, or Google Cloud Project. That's right, it's the editor role. All right. So jumping over to the APIs and services section. On this one, we're going to go to the navigation menu, back again. All right, that little hamburger stack up there. We'll click API and Services Library. And here you can see all of the different APIs and services here listed. There's tons of them in here, but we're going to go ahead and search on Dialogflow. And we'll go ahead and click on that one. What it's wanting us to do here is to enable this API. So we'll go ahead and click the Enable button. And that will launch into the screen. So it's sort of implied that it's enabled because there's a stop button to disable it. But in the instructions, you'll see kind of a screen there. And I think that's changed a little bit since the last time. But if you kind of back out, you hit back on the browser, you can see that the API is now enabled. You'll see that little checkbox there. So that's one thing that's a little bit different, at least from the instructions in the lab itself. But it is indeed there and it is enabled. If we go back on the browser and go back to that original screen, we can click on the Try This API, and it'll launch another tab. And you'll see in here all of the different features of the APIs that are out there, right? So you can see all of these listed here. You can type in Dialogflow to go to that particular API and explore all the documentation and all the different methods that are available inside of that API. All right, only one question with this one here. So when you start a lab in Quick Labs, you need to enable APIs in your project to start working with Google Cloud. True or false? This one's actually a little tricky, I think. I refuse to answer.
Raphael has a good answer because Quick Labs does it for us. He thinks. All right. Oh, Richard has the consultant. That's a solution architect. It depends.
It depends. Yeah. No, and I think personally, I think it depends is a little bit
the scripts running. I mean, isn't that the scripts running and activate the stuff basically?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So it's true-ish.
Yeah.
Should be manually.
Yeah, this one was a little deceiving. When I hit this question, I went, So yeah, in the same camp of thinking there for sure.
Yeah, Richard gave the consulting answer. That's right. Which there's a lesson to be learned there, of course.
Exactly. All right, so jumping back, the next step here is to take a look at the Cloud Shell. So in order to activate the Cloud Shell, there's a little icon in the upper right-hand corner on the blue bar. If you hover over it, you'll see Activate Cloud Shell. Go go ahead and click on that button, and it will go and provision a Cloud Shell machine, which can be pretty quick. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Okay, it's pretty quick for me today. Earlier, it took a little while for it to launch, but generally speaking, it's pretty fast for the most part. So once it's provisioned, it's going to open a pane here at the bottom of the console, and it'll have some, it'll set you at a prompt here. It'll have a little bit of messages listed here as well. The first command they're going to have you run is the Google Cloud auth list, right? And it should launch a prompt, which is requesting your credentials to make Google Cloud API call. So we're going to go ahead and authorize that. And then if we run that command again, you'll see, well, actually it did appear down here as well, but it shows the active account that is set at the moment right here. Now, the Cloud Shell has a set of pre-installed tools with the Cloud Shell. So for example, and they list one here, Nano, which you can use to edit files. So we'll just step quickly through a brief exercise to create a file. Let's go ahead and issue that command. And then if we issue an ls command, you can see that file right there. You can do an ls-l and you can kind of see it a little bit different way there.
So the nice thing about Cloud Shell is it's giving you essentially a fully functioning Linux jump box, if you like, with all of the Google Cloud, G Cloud tools, etc., already pre-installed on there. So depending on if you're used to working in different platforms, some of them have something similar to that. This is very well integrated here, I'll say. It doesn't put it on you to figure out how you can then SSH into your environment. So we'll comment on that.
Yeah, it's very, very handy. I really like it. Just to finish up these last few steps here, they're having you use Nano to open and edit it. You can also, I think, use VI.
But you can never leave.
I'm more familiar with VI, but if you'd like to do the Nano, you can do that as well. Use what's familiar to you.
There's actually one other fun trick. VI is awesome. Nano is functional. It works. When you're done editing your file, if you type edit and then the name of the file, it'll actually open up the Cloud Shell editor, which is also a nice environment. So if you just type edit and then that file, it'll kind of go crazy for a second. And then you'll see it'll actually open up the Cloud Shell editor, which is, I think, a pretty cool way to navigate around. So there you are.
Makes life really easy there.
Yeah. So the edit. Uh-oh, now we're getting into religion, Travis. is VI Vim? Raphael asks, and Travis gave the Vim user answer. Care to share any more, Travis? That's a good question.
Supposedly Vim is a superset of VI, so it has all the same functionality except more. So except I've never actually experienced what exactly those differences are.
I stick to the narrow path. I don't need the power of Vim, but I have heard that Vim is much more powerful.
Syntax highlighting, I believe, is part of Vim, not VI. Which, I mean,
yes.
These days, without syntax highlighting, I don't know how anybody functions.
Oh, see, Emacs. Svetlin says Emacs.
Yes, that's another good one, too.
We ventured into VI improved. We ventured into religion here.
Maybe we should talk about tabs and spaces.
Tabs and spaces, anyone? Yeah.
Them's fighting words.
JetBrains. Yep. Yeah, Raphael. Yep. Svetlin. That's the one that that also has sponsored the GDG, right? Is JetBrains. So yeah, working in an IDE like that. Yep.
Yeah, we are sponsored by JetBrains, and each month we give away a license for any of their ID products, which is $150, a license for 1 year of updates. Are we gonna run maybe next time or anytime thereafter a raffle? I can give away. I have a spare license.
All right, well, maybe today's the day. Maybe we'll do that. Since I did not get organized on having some cloud giveaways, so I think at least one person is excited to put their name on the wheel for that. So I say we do it.
All right, let's do it then.
All right.
I second that motion.
Awesome. How's everyone doing keeping up on the lab? I know some of it can be kind of basic if this is your first time seeing Quick Labs, or even further seeing the Google Cloud Console. Don't be afraid to raise your hand or ask for help here. That's what this is all about. So hope you're keeping up, and if you're not able to keep up, this is beneficial, right? See what it's all about, and then use that code. Go back in when you have some time. See if you can complete it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, if there aren't any questions, I will bring it on home. I think there's only a couple of steps left in this one. Yeah. We're just going to take a look at that file. So I use VI, right, to go ahead and do that. I put a little message in there, and then I did the Shift:\Write quit, which writes out it to the file itself. And then if you want to cat that to see if it actually worked, you can type CAT space the name of the file and hit enter, and you should see what was in there, which I do. The other thing that's kind of nice is that you can hit TE and hit tab, and it'll auto-populate the rest of it, right? Which is also a common feature as well. But the shell kind of behaves as if you would expect it if you're familiar with working in a Unix, Linux flavor kind of environment. All right. Well, I think that was the last piece of this overview or a tour of Quick Labs in Google Cloud. At this point, we go to the step where you end the lab. And so when you're finished with the lab, it's the first time you've gone through a Quick Labs, you would just go up and click the End Lab button over here. I'll go ahead and do that. It's going to prompt you and say, are you sure you want to do this? And then, if you're sure, obviously, you go ahead and hit Submit. And then you're going to get prompted with a small, survey, right? How do you want to rate this this particular lab? You can give it a 1 to a 5-star rating and put any additional content or comments in the comments section. So you can put some fun stuff in there. And once you've selected your star rating, then the submit button will enable, and then you're finished. So essentially, we've walked through our first Quick Lab together as a team. So in terms of anybody's progress here, any questions, any concerns, anything that you wanted to bring up before we dive into the next one? Silence is golden.
Cool. So that first lab in Quick Labs, that was included in the quest. If we scroll down a little bit there, Jesse, you can show the rest of the labs right there, right? So nice green check mark for that first one. If you've completed it, you should get that green check mark there if you ended the lab correctly. You'll notice that the first on your screen, the first one may be marked as free, and then the second one that we're going to go to, creating a virtual machine, it may not say free like Jesse says. It may say 1 credit on there. So when you click creating a virtual machine and go to start that lab, this is the point where you will see if the access code that we gave you is functioning properly. If when you try to start this, you click start lab and it prompts you to pay or buy credits or something, don't do that. Let us know. We'll troubleshoot it with you. I have a fallback code available here now. So if that happens, let us know. Don't whip out your credit card and pay for this, even though I think it is highly valuable.
Yep, and you'll see that here when you hit the Start Lab. So because I've already got credits there, it'll go ahead and start. But if you click Start Lab and you don't have credits, you're going to get a pay window where it's going to prompt that screen there. Okay. Does anyone want to comment? Is it working yet? Is the code working, or do we know for sure?
I see an oops from Richard, but I'm not sure if you just spilled your coffee or it's not working for you.
No, I'm guilty as charged. I have done so many things with Google Cloud that I'm probably using an email address which I used for some past codes and stuff, so it doesn't work. It asks me to enter a lab.
It's asking you to put a lab code in.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you a workaround because it may in fact be the access code that we gave you in the instructions. I was troubleshooting that with support, so I just put into the chat a new link. It's basically the same, but it says Skills Challenge, and it gave me a new code. So you go to that link. There's a button that says Claim. That'll copy it, and then when you click the button next to that one, it'll ask you to paste that code in. Do that, and then go back to your original window. Copy and then claim. I'm going to do it in this other window just to make sure it does work for me. And at that point, then when you go to the creating a virtual machine lab, it should say apply credits.
Let me try. I probably may. I have way too many users I used in the past, so it may not work. Just give me a second.
Okay, yeah, work on that. Let us know. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
Raphael asking about Firebase, and then you're thinking there's a either or there. I'll start to answer it this way. Firebase actually runs on top of GCP, so the resources that you create, for instance, Firestore, actually show up in GCP in the console. So that's actually a GCP service being exposed out through Firebase, and it's actually based on the same concepts that we're exploring here of projects, IAM, buckets, etc. So it doesn't have to be an either or.
Yeah, I found that out quite recently from Alex Astrom. He was telling me that the Cloud Functions is basically just a layer on top of Docker and Cloud Run. I thought it was quite cool, but I don't know why. I'm so preferential towards Firebase. I don't know if it's the UI or the docs, or it's just like so much easier to use. GCP seems kind of like intimidating in a way.
Okay, well, hopefully we're helping to get over a little bit of the intimidation with the free stuff, but I would definitely concur. I don't know if others have comments on Firebase. Are you Firebase users primarily for mobile development? Is that what you've worked on, Raphael, or other things as well?
I use it for full stack, both mobile and web. I think it has a Unity as well.
Yes.
But I've never touched Unity.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely a powerful platform and does have a lot of nice to haves built into there. Has anyone else worked with Firebase? If you're shouting madly about it, you're on mute. But
Well, I think most everyone is using Firebase, especially as you mentioned, Carl, for mobile development. So convenient, especially for Android, but not only for Android, which I'm working on.
Thanks, Svetlin. See you, Norm. Thanks for contributing. All right, we'll check in with Richard. How's that going, Richard?
I have to do something else. Hang in there. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. Check back with us. Let us know. All right. Shall we proceed? Jesse, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
The next lab?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. So I've already fired it up, done the same procedure I did before, right? So you can use incognito. I'm just using a guest profile. That's just an alternative way to do it. I went ahead and grabbed the link from the lab itself, and I pasted that over there. And so we'll go ahead and launch into the second lab. So I'm just for everyone's edification, I'm doing the create virtual machine. I'm doing the Unix one. I'm not doing the Windows version. Go ahead and copy the password. Right. Should be very similar from the last activity. So this is something new, right? Something a little different. You'll get this sometimes because each one of these is a new account as it's launching a new container to launch the lab. You just click accept, and it'll take you into the console. We didn't get that last time. And then the other prompt you're going to get here is that this welcome screen, the splash screen, you just go ahead and check the I agree to the terms and then click agree and continue. And then you should be off to the races. Okay. All right, so the first thing it wants you to do in this lab is to activate the Cloud Shell. And luckily we just did that, so it should be very familiar. We're going to go up into the upper right-hand corner on the blue bar and click the Activate Cloud Shell. We'll go ahead and click that now. Go ahead and click Continue and let that load up. All right. And then the next step we're going to do is go ahead and type in that same command we did before, the gcloud auth list. Allow us to authorize that API. And we're ready to go. The first step they want to do is have us list the projects. We're going to type gcloud config list project. You can see that the project that is listed is the current project we're part of here. And if that's different, you can assign it, right? If you need it to be a different project, you can change projects in here as well. But this is the one that we're going to use for the rest of the lab. Okay. Let's jump down to task 1. I'm at task 1, create a new instance from the Cloud Console. So in the Cloud Console, we're going to go up to the navigation menu. We're going to click Compute Engine and then VM Instances. So we'll go to the navigation menu here. We're going to go down to Compute Engine under the Compute section. And then we're going to select VM Instances.
Note the in the menu when you're going through it. Note the little pins next to the different sections. Those do just what you think they would do. If you click the pin, it'll put the section at the top. So if you're doing a lab that's kind of all within a couple of different sections, you can kind of pin them to the top of your menu and have easier access to them. Or if you're working with GCP and you're doing a lot with VMs or you're doing a lot with certain APIs or things like that, you can pin them to the top of your menu.
Yeah, that's a great tip. You can also search for the products and resources up here too in the search bar as well. Sometimes you get tired of typing it over and over again. It's nice to have it up there on the menu. All right, so let's go ahead and create the instance. We'll go up to the top menu bar up here, and we'll click the Create Instance.
Can I ask a question about these instances and Docker?
Shoot.
So I think I spoke to a couple of people that said that you can specify to have a Docker instance running 24/7, like just one, and then it can scale based on the load. So if that's the case, what's the reason for even needing a compute instance that's up 24/7 when you could just have a Docker container?
In terms of the trade-offs there, does anybody on the team want to take that?
I can jump in briefly. So it's it's very workload dependent. There may be some instances for certain types of workloads. And also another consideration is the development team and the capabilities of the development team, because there may be some instances where you're taking large on-premise infrastructure or things that are already VM-based and shifting that into the cloud where you might not be ready to containerize or refactor. There may be some code changes required for that. So in those instances, it may make more sense to just have a straight VM running your workload. For new ones, depending on also the development team, if it's already suited where you're building a new application, then it might make sense to do something that's completely containerized. And there are a few different options as far as that goes where, because the container is so portable, it can be run wherever you need it, right? You have it on-prem, you can have it running within the context of the VM, have it deployed into Kubernetes directly through maybe something like GKE, or even all the way to the level of some of our solutions like Cloud Run, where you don't have to worry about any of the infrastructure, any of the node management. It's just deploy your code, send it up to Cloud Run. You've got this packaged up. You've got your Docker file or whatever your build artifacts are, and all you need to worry about is your application itself. So it's very dependent on the use case, the type of workload that it is, and also maybe the environment and the team as well. So hopefully that helped to give a little bit of background and insight there.
Yeah, definitely it does. I don't want to take up too much time, but just a quick question: would you maybe say that it's better if you're going to start something from scratch to start with a containerized idea in mind? Because I know that the pricing is a lot better when you use containers, since it's not being used 24/7. You don't get billed 24/7 either.
No, absolutely. And it's, a lot of people are going to have different opinions, but I do feel like, in my personal approach, if you're building something brand new, a lot of the huge benefits of going the containerized route is just exactly that, the portability and the flexibility where you don't have to necessarily worry about where, and if you need to change in the future to be able to say you want to run elsewhere or expand out that presence, having something that's already got that model of being containerized is going to give you, I think, a lot of ability to be able to move, transition, get rid of a lot of the dependency management issues that you might see with having things directly installed on VMs and so on. So, I think it's definitely a good route as far as some best practices and principles for modern application development.
Thank you for that. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So continuing right along. So I'm at the section here. I'm in task 1, step 3. So we'll go ahead and start entering in the parameters for the new instance. So the first thing you're going to want to do is give it a name. So we'll use the name that's specified here. It wants us to also use the US Central 1 Iowa region, which has already been defaulted. But if you wanted to use a different region, you could just select from any of these right here, right, from the list, as well as the specific zone. So in this case, they want us to use Central 1F. In this particular region, there are 4 different zones available. Go ahead and select F there. The next is to select the series for the particular machine and the configuration. So it defaults to E2. In this case, they want us to use an N1. So it's the first generation down here. It's the N1. We'll go ahead and select that. And then it wants us to do 2 CPUs. So this N1 standard 2 would be the selection. So it's defaulting to 1 CPU, but they want it to be a little bit bigger, have an extra CPU there, a virtual CPU, I should say.
Okay, Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be possible for you to increase the typeface? As we can see a huge empty white space on the right-hand side.
Oh, sure.
Which could be used properly somehow if you just increase the typeface. This is a...
There you go.
Yeah, excellent.
Not a problem. Is that better?
I can read it better. I don't know. Maybe I'm a...
No, I feel you. I got the glasses, so I feel you. Absolutely.
Thanks, Svetlin. Yeah, we got a plus on that from Raphael. I appreciate it. Yeah, speak up. Make sure this is useful, guys.
Awesome, yeah. All right. It wants us to leave the rest of these default down here below, and then we'll just go down to the disk. So we'll select this drop down here. I'm sorry, the disk size. Oh, sorry, it's this section here. So the disk, it's 10 gigs, and that's exactly what we have here. So we'll just go ahead and leave the default. And then on the firewall section, it wants us to allow HTTP traffic. So we're going to make sure and check that box. That's pretty important for the next step. Okay. And after we get all of those different criteria entered and selected, we're going to go ahead down to the bottom, and we will click the Create button. Go ahead and give us a little bit more real estate. Hopefully everybody can still see. And then once this is finished and launched, then we'll go and connect to it. The next step being that we're going to install a web server onto the instance. Okay, so that's up and running now. So in order to connect to this instance, what we'll do is we'll go over to this right-hand side, and you can see the connect via SSH, and there's a couple of different options here. You can open it in a browser window. You can change the port. You can use using a private SSH key. You can use a command or even another SSH client altogether. I'm going to go ahead and click the SSH button, and we'll go ahead and launch it in a browser. And hopefully the typeface is large enough here. I don't know if I can enlarge it. Oh, yeah, I can. Make sure that worked. Yeah, okay. So once that gets done connecting, we'll test that out.
This next command kind of gave me a little bit of the scaries. Is that just a way to get into root permissions in any computer? Like if I was to just sit in a coffee shop and SSH into someone's machine, can I just use sudo su to get root permissions?
If the user you're logged in as has the rights to do that, then yes, you would.
Ooh, that's scary.
But it's unlikely that would be the case, right? And most of these would be set up with proper security in place to prevent that. You have to have rights to be able to do that.
You could actually talk a little bit about what was going on as that window was scrolling a little bit before we actually dropped into the terminal right there. What's happening in the background there is, as when Jesse clicked that SSH right to pop it up in the window, is it actually did a secure transfer of the SSH key to authenticate during that session into the VM, right? Into that compute engine instance. And that's actually what's used to authenticate here to get you onto that. So that's a step in the process that Raphael typically, like if you were just in a coffee shop and you saw another computer at another table, there wouldn't be a mechanism by which you would be able to transfer your key over to that person's laptop and then get SSH to listen and then respond and have the correct key to authenticate you. So that's actually what it's doing for you there. But it's a great question. It makes it look so easy when we say, oh, just click the button and then go in and do some things, and then knowing what's happening underneath, under the covers.
Yep. And this user, so I just typed a who am I, so you can see who the user is. This user has sudo rights to do that. Otherwise, if I were to type that command, sudo su space that hyphen, it wouldn't allow me to gain root access. So that's something that's been configured as such, so that way you can do that. So generally speaking, you wouldn't, in a coffee shop, if somebody had, a terminal open or something like that, unless they were already logged in and they had sudo rights, you wouldn't be able to obtain root access.
Sorry if I'm spamming questions. like being a bit annoying, but just now that we have these sudo permission, like we're in like the sudo user, we don't need to use the sudo word when doing something like changing permissions to files, do we?
No, at this point you're root. So if I do a who am I again, now I'm root, right? And you can see that at the front of the prompt, right? It tells you who the user is. I mean, this is a little bit more explicit, of course, if the prompt didn't necessarily have that in it. But here I'm now the root user, so now I can effectively do anything as root. And then when I exit out of this, it'll take me back to that user that I logged in before. You can also issue commands with sudo. So you can just type the command sudo and then type the command after it, and it will execute it with those elevated privileges, which is a little bit different than being able to actually change my user or switch user into the root user, which is what you're doing here. So a little bit different way you can attack that, and it prevents you from having kind of that full-blown access on the system. But for illustration purposes here, it works nicely. Okay, so we'll go ahead and type the command here. So I'm on step 2 of task 2. So we're going to be doing the installation process for the Nginx web server. Oops, if I could type. What this is doing here is it's updating all the package files to make sure that we have the latest and greatest before we run the installation process. So it did that pretty quickly. And the next step, we're on step 3 now. We're going to do the installation process. So we're going to type apt-get install x y switch. This is going to run through first downloading and then unpacking, grabbing all the dependencies, and performing the installation for the web server. And I believe it actually starts it as well. Yeah, as part of that. Okay. All right, so once that step's complete, you can see that it's running by running this command here. We're grepping for, let's see if it's running. And you can see here that the process is running right here. You can see the 2 workers. So it's running as root, which is indicated here. And you can see where that command was kicked off. Okay. So now that the web server is running, we want to go ahead and test it. And since this virtual machine instance has an external IP, and you can find the external IP right here, you can actually connect to it from a web browser. So you'll use the external IP. If you're following along on your own, don't use the IP address that I have here. Use the one that's been created for your VM instance. And you can actually open a browser and attempt to connect to it. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. So we'll type http:// and then we'll go ahead and copy that. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. We'll paste it, or you can just run it from that accidental click I did a second ago. But you can see that you hit the welcome page for it, and it's working just fine. Alternatively, although that wasn't a deliberate action, you can actually click this button as well, and it'll go ahead and do the same thing. Okay. So this is actually, we come to that step, and before, when we were doing the overview, if you recall, there was a check my progress. There was a question, I think, about that. This is an example of that here. So since we've come to this step and we've successfully completed all the steps before, we're going to go ahead and check or hit this button that says check my progress, and we'll actually check to see that you've completed those steps. And if you did, you'll get a checkbox, and if not, you'll get, I think it's a red X, if I'm not mistaken. And you can go back and look at maybe something that you missed, or see if there's a step that you just overlooked through your progress. So we'll go ahead and check that box there, and hopefully we get the green check. Yep, we sure did. So that section was completed successfully. This is also, I think, a really good feature of Quick Labs because a lot of these things have dependencies. And so it makes sure that your dependent tasks are completed successfully so the subsequent tasks work properly. So that way you can't get too far down the line before you realize that something went, awry, or if you got off base a little bit. Okay. All right. So on this last, I think this is last, is this the last task? Yeah. This last task here, we're going to create a new instance using the console. So essentially, we're going to go through the same steps that we did before, but we're going to use the command line in order to do that. Okay. So we'll do that down here in the shell. I'm going to go ahead and close out this shell because I don't need it anymore. And we'll go down to the shell down here. Can everybody still see this? Is this still large enough? Go back to the screen. Is it still legible? Yeah, okay, good. All right, typing a lot of commands. I want to make sure you can see. Good deal. Okay. Now, what you can do if you're following along with this task is you can actually, if you look at the, here, I'll bring that over to the screen so you can see it. Some of these commands can get kind of lengthy. So what you can do, if you hover over these little black boxes here, these little windows, you'll see this, this copy button. You can actually click the copy button, and it'll copy all the text inside of here. So if you get to some fairly lengthy statements, you don't want to type them out. That's kind of a nice little shortcut to do. I like to type them out personally, so that way I get familiar with the commands, and you just get used to using them, and they become a little bit more intuitive rather than do the copy paste. But whichever one makes sense to you, please feel free to do. It's a nice shortcut. Sometimes you have typos, and troubleshooting that stuff's more trouble than it's worth. So we'll go ahead and type the command here. So we'll do gcloud compute instances. We're going to create one. We're going to give it a name, GCE Lab 2. We'll use the switch for machine type. We're going to use the N1 standard 2. The zone. We're going to use US Central 1 F. We have a question?
Yeah, actually, I made a bit of an oopsie. I did that root permissions, and now I can't set the project back. So I tried to do I copied and I pasted in the command to create the VM, but it said I needed to select the project. So I did the gcloud config list projects, and it says that the section core has no property projects. Is there any way to get back? I tried to close down the Cloud Shell terminal and open it up again, but I'm still stuck in the root at Cloud Shell.
So you're using the Cloud Shell, right? Not the SSH from the previous exercise?
Yes.
Okay. You should be able to start with this gcloud auth list command. Maybe you missed that piece.
Yeah, so I tried to do the gcloud config set account. I did that.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I ran the command that you have gcloud config list project, oh, you know what? I typed projects instead of project. Sorry, my bad.
Okay, plural, huh? Yeah, and when you type the gcloud auth list, you should see project down here. Or you can do list project, sorry, and it'll tell you what the value of that variable is, that environment variable is right here. And that should be the same project as this project ID that you have in the lab.
Okay.
So don't use mine, use yours, because yours will be different, but that's where you'll get the value.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's also selected at the drop down at the top of the console.
Oh, yeah.
The blue section.
Right here, yep. So you want to check that environment variable project equals that. And if it does, then you should be set to go and advance to the next step. But holler if you have any trouble beyond that. Okay, so where we were at before, we went ahead and ran this command here, which went ahead and created an instance, and you can see the output. It shows, you know, the name of the instance, essentially the parameters we put in, the zone, the machine type. You know, this isn't a preemptible VM, so that's left blank. You have the internal and external address, and then the status, and the status shows that it is running. So what we're going to do here is just make sure that Quick Labs pick that up. So we'll click the check my progress. Yep. And so it's happy with that as well. All right, good deal. Okay. So what we can do to see all the defaults for the instances, this command, we can actually go back and run that. So what I did was I hit the up arrow. That's another little tip. If you're not familiar with that in the console, you can usually go up to your previous commands. That's handy if you're, you know, have a typo or something like that, and you just need to fix something. You can just go up to it and make your correction. So I'm going to go ahead and just take out this, go all the way back to create. And then you can type help. So if you need help with commands to understand what the different parameters are, you can actually do that, and it'll show the man page, essentially, for that particular command. So to kind of see that I did that awfully quick, right? In this case, I'm doing, oops, put that menu back. G-Cloud compute instances create. So I want some help with the create command because I don't exactly know what all the different parameters are. I can type in that command and then do the -- help switch at the end, and then that will bring up the man page, and you can look at all of the different switches and details and information. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and check that our instances are there. So what it's having us do is to go up to the navigation menu. Now I went ahead and pinned it, but if you didn't pin it, you'll go down to the compute engine, VM instances, or I could have just refreshed that page as well. And we should see both of our instances now. Yeah, there it is. So there's the GCE Lab 2 that we just created. All right. So the next step here, it's demonstrating that you can connect to SSH through the command line as well. So we can type the G-Cloud compute SSH. This is step number 5, GCE Lab 2. Use the zone switch, US Central 1-F. And here it'll prompt you a yes or no for the keys. You say yes. You can enter a passphrase. I'm not going to. And there we are. We are now connected to GCE Lab 2. So that's effectively doing the same thing as going up here and launching it in another browser. It's just another way to do it. Okay. Any questions with that last step? Okay. All right, so we'll do the last piece here. We're going to go ahead and exit out and close the connection to that virtual machine. And everybody's favorite section, we have one question here at the end. I think this one's a pretty easy one, but we'll see. Through which of the following ways can you create a VM instance in the compute engine? Through the G-Cloud command line tool, or the Cloud Console, or both? Any takers? Both. That's right.
Raphael says both. Good job.
All right. We have made it to the end of creating a virtual machine, and I think just in the nick of time based on the schedule here, right? 2 minutes to spare. So I'll go ahead and end the lab. Feel free to end your lab now if you've gone through and followed along. If you're way ahead, feel free to continue along on the quest. That code, I think, gives you, is that 30 days? Is that right, of free access?
Yeah, so depending which code you used, if you use the first one that we put in the instructions, or if you use the second one that we gave you during, for troubleshooting, like I think Richard and maybe another person might have used, that one gives you enough credits to finish this quest. The way you unlock the 30 days is by actually completing all of the labs in this quest. That will then unlock a full month of the Quick Labs access for you. So you see how you've got, some of them are optional, right? You've got an or, like Jesse did the Linux. There's also a Windows. You can do one or the other. But the idea is to get all the way through down to the end. That'll finish out the quest for you, and that's what'll give you that full month subscription. I also wanted to point out while you've got it up there, Jesse, if you go, I think just the back arrow on the left to kind of go to the home screen there. You don't have to do this all in one sitting, right? Or if you go to your profile on that screen on the top right, so go back where there's a pretty picture of Jesse in the corner, and then click on yours and go to I think is it profile. I'm looking for the way to see you can get back to your Quick Labs. That's what I wanted to show. So maybe just click on settings there or something and then go to home. But point I wanted to make was you can get back here. You don't have to do this all at one sitting. So you have a full week. So that's what I want to show right there. So see how Jesse has in progress there? That's actually this quest, right? So if you sleep, eat, all those things over the next week, that's perfectly fine. Do those. Don't stop doing them, but do come back here and finish out that quest. The unit of management there is basically the lab. So as you check off those green boxes, when you log back into Quick Labs, you'll see if you completed the lab, the green box is still checked. Then you can go to the next lab, get all of those checked off, and you can finish out the quest.
Awesome.
Yeah, with that in mind, we've got a couple of things to do here at the end to wrap up, but hopefully everyone made it through. I wanted to do a status check on everybody. Did everybody make it through? Maybe just put a 1 if in chat, or say, hey, if you got through at least one lab today, and it's fine if you didn't get through the 2 labs. That's okay. Great. Glad to see that. Really good questions, and glad to see the participation. Cool. Anybody get through both labs? Maybe you've been running ahead, finished them before Jesse did. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay, you got through the VM creation lab. That's good. Excellent. Did anybody do the Windows one? I know we did the Linux one. Did venture over and try the Windows VM? You can, of course, run a Windows VM on there. It's going to be a little bit different than the Linux one. Someone has an opinion on Windows. Yep, you could do it. Some people do. Very good. Awesome. Yeah, not in 20 years. That'd be Windows. Was Windows 98 maybe before Windows 98, huh? Do quick math on that.
Windows for work groups.
For work groups, yeah. XP. Okay, that's very modern, Svetlin. XP. That one I think lived for about 20 years. That was pretty long lived. Very good. Okay, well, thank you for playing along and answering my kind of trivia on there. I did want to show that that you can get back to the quest, you can get back to the labs if you have them in progress, and you should be able to use the credits to get yourself along there. I think we wanted to plug next week's quest, which is going to be a different quest. So that's the motivation to keep going and get things done in this quest as you're moving along. Next week, we are actually going to be talking about, and there was a question early on about Kubernetes, and that's going to be led by one of our colleagues who was on here earlier, Muriel. Oh, Muriel's still on. She's been quiet. Muriel is going to lead the Kubernetes quest going on next Wednesday. So if you haven't already, Muriel's waving and encouraging you to please go register for that one. It's going to be Wednesday, same window of time, same back channel. So please sign up for that if you're interested at all. Also, tell your friends, tell your family, bring them along. There's room here for everyone, so please encourage you to expand out. If you saw this on social media, tag the post, tell us what you thought. Be honest. If you had a good time, say that. If it could have been improved, we also are looking for your feedback. With that in mind, Svetlin, do you want to maybe bring us home here? Svetlin has a way that we can give away a license for JetBrains, and I think I understood that someone here would benefit greatly from that. So this is a good audience to do a JetBrains giveaway. Is that okay, Svetlin?
Yes, let's conclude our meeting with on a happy note, giving away free stuff. That's always good. So let me share my screen and I will explain how it works.
Cool. While you do that, Svetlin, we'll say thank you to Jesse for leading that lab. Thank you everyone for participating on there. If you're really not interested in winning the JetBrains, that's totally fine. We won't be offended. You can feel free to drop or to hang out and abstain, I guess, from the raffle. But if you're interested in it, please do put your name in when requested, and we'll do the raffle for one license of that. Thank you, Raphael, for your participation. Umesh as well. Musa, Richard, really appreciate it. All right, Svetlin. See you, Richard. Thanks, Umesh. What do we need for the JetBrains? Just first names?
Yeah, just first names. Please put your first names in the chat. And if it is only one participant, it's not really one or two even. It's not really a raffle. I need at least 3 names.
All right. Well, we've got Raphael, Musa, and Umesh. Want to just put you all 3 in, and we'll spin the wheel.
Yes. First of all,
Craig's in there too. I don't know if he's interested. I saw it.
All right. We'll put your
if I
name
call
up. We'll qualify you in. If you're interested in it, Craig, we'll hook you up.
All right. Awesome.
all right. Just please write your names in the chat so that I can easily copy and paste it. Otherwise, it's going to be more difficult for me. Yes. Thank you.
There we go. Thanks.
All right. First of all, the JetBrains tools. I personally use IntelliJ IDEA, which has tools using Kotlin and Java for full stack development. But there is also PyCharm, which is preferable for AI. WebStorm is for JavaScript. There is a PHP Storm. There is CLion for the addicts to C and C++. There is DataGrip Ruby. There is AppCode for iOS, if somebody is interested. There is Golang for Go, and several versions of those for EDU purposes. So what I'm going to do now, I'll stop presenting for now to switch to what we'll be using for the raffle itself. And I will again start presenting wheel of names. This is a random pick generator. So I'll start by copying and pasting the names that we're gonna use. Okay, Raphael is there. Craig is. Okay, Raphael has another strong opinion. Okay, that's fine. I personally don't use JavaScript at all, so I don't know. Okay, 2 names. I need 1 more.
We want to put in. We'll put in Musa and Umesh.
Is that okay, Musa and Umesh?
All right, Umesh is in.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay, Umesh. And that's all. Just 3 names. This is a high probability of winning a very valuable personal license for any of those tools that I just pointed out. Are we done here, or 1 or 2 more names, or that's it? Looks like that's it. Okay, then I will shuffle the names. Like that first. And then I will click to spin the wheel. Ah, Raphael is the winner.
All right, that's my favorite part, is the clapping and confetti.
Love it.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. What does Raphael need to do to get connected here, Svetlin, and pick up his license?
Okay, I'm posting my email in the chat.
There you go.
Please, Raphael, send me an email so that I will respond to you with the license.
That's great. That makes me happy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. I've got like a month left of my student account. That's actually great. Thank you.
Perfect
No
time.
problem. That's why we, the GDG organizers, are here to make people happy.
As best we can, right? Yeah, well done. Thank you, Svetlin, for that. With that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording just because we're right at the time on that. But once I stop it, feel free to stay on if you wanted to chat or anything. If you want to start your evening, that's perfectly fine as well. But thank you all for participating in this first of the series of GDG Google Cloud Jams, our first quest this evening. Thank you very much, and see you at the next San Diego GDG meeting, which is happening a week from tonight. We'll have another Cloud Jam session.